Top of the morning to you all, and welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. And I'm your host, Sal Greco, and I thank you all for being here. I hope everyone had a great weekend. There's lots to talk about. Obviously, yesterday was the World Cup final. We'll get to that. Spain won their second World Cup, but their second tournament in a row they won. They won the Euros, and now they also won the World Cup, which the last time they were champions, they did the exact same thing. Well, they did it in reverse. They won the FIFA World Cup, and then they won the Euros in 2012. But it wasn't a great game per se. A lot of stuff that happened during the game. We're going to get to that because I don't know what the hell the coach of Argentina, in my opinion, should be fired. He didn't put the actual best player he has on the field, which was Lautaro Martinez, captain of my favorite team, Inter Milan. And that's why they lost, in my opinion. I mean, Messi's a 39-year-old guy. And in soccer, that's like saying I'm 100 years old because the guys on the field on Spain, literally their players, one of them's or two of them are 18 years old. So if you think someone at 40 could keep up with someone at 18, you know, Father Time is undefeated for a reason. So, it was a one-sided game, and then Argentina were looking like a bunch of thugs on the field. All the flip-flopping, drama, diving, and then one guy got double yellow card because he did two stupid things. It was very classless team at the end. I'm like, what? They went from being world champs to disgracing themselves in the final. We'll get to that at the very end. But lots to talk about. There's a lot that's been going on. It happened since our last show. And there's been upgrades to certain things on my own website, on our website. So if you guys can, if you're watching us right now on Rumble, please hit the Rumble button. Hit the subscribe button on there if you feel like, subscribing to us on Rumble. Hit the like button, hit the notification button on there if you want to follow us on Rumble, like I said. If you're watching on YouTube, on the at the Sal Greco Show channel, where we continue to grow. And I always post my articles I write, anything that happens, I post on there as well. Follow us on at the Sal Greco Show. Hit the like button, share this out, hit the notification bell. Don't forget to subscribe. And, of course, do not forget to hit that hype button. The hype button gets you past all the algorithm issues on YouTube, since it's all about social engineering. And they allegedly say this hype button gets you past the social engineering. So don't forget to hit the hype button. And, of course, if you're watching on X, on at the Sal Greco right now, please like this and share this out to all your friends, especially those in the low information sphere. And a lot of people with that. Then, of course, don't forget, for your SEO needs, and I'm learning all about this now as I go, you need your SEOs fixed, or you have your social media, you're wondering why you're being suppressed, you go to SEOginzos.com. There's their website right there, SEOginzos.com. Tell them you're a friend of Sal's. You get 10% off whatever your social media needs are. And they work wonders because I'm telling you, this SEO thing is big. All I can tell you is none of this is fair. There's a lot of social engineering. And in order to get through there, you have to have your SEO and, all these back channel things that I really can't get into. But SEOginzos.com can help you get through them. They specialize in this stuff, and you could navigate the social engineering waters there where you have a bunch of these social engineers. Then, of course, IACRL.org. If you want to become a member of the Italian American Civil Rights League, even if you're not Italian, you can still be a member of the IACRL, which now there's events. They've been in the news. Of course, you know that the mayor of New York City forgot about Little Italy, whether he knew about it or not. That started a firestorm, and, of course, the IACRL is now growing. And there it is. There's the website. You can also go down to Mulberry Street. You go to Cafe Palermo, hang out with Baby John. He's got a big banner in there for the IACRL. You could ask Baby John, hey, I want to be a member, and, Sal said I should have one of your cannolis. or go next door to Baby John's Pizzeria and have a slice of pizza. But that's how you could join the IACRL, the Time American Civil Rights League. And, of course, for all the news, the latest in public safety, NYPD, pop culture, sports, politics, and more, salgreco.com. Your news, your voice. There's a bunch of articles that were written. The latest one is about the infrastructure that absolutely failed New York City over the weekend. It is a crumbling foundation. We're going to get to that. It was a disaster this weekend, but also there's new items up in the store. It's kind of being it's a let's say a product that's still evolving. salgreco.com, but that's where you go to learn what's going on in the news. You go to salgreco.com, check out the news blogs. You want to buy some items. You want to run around with a Sal Greco Show mug. You're free to do that. I just got tank tops up there now, too, as well. So you could buy a tank top. Somebody in the chat a couple of weeks ago wanted to see if we're going to have a tank top. And, of course, if you want to support us, because remember, it's just me and Jack out here. Hit the support button, and whatever you could donate goes a long way in helping the Sal Greco Show and the Sal Greco Show platform in total, and salgreco.com. But thank you guys very much if you do go to salgreco.com and check out all the latest. So with all of that out of the way, let me see here. I see right here. You already got one right here. What is this? KNM 116 said 440 gems. UNC alert. Yeah, we're gonna get to some stuff that just occurred in New York City. So, and I like to also wish a very good morning to everyone that's in the chat right now. I see a lot of names here. I guess 440 crypto gems. That's interesting. I guess me and Jack have to start getting involved in the crypto world. I thought only the former mayor of New York City knew about that stuff. Maybe I need to try to do a rug pull with the crypto. So without any further ado, good morning to Baby Lou in the chat. Good morning to you. Any further ado, I want to bring on the co-host of the Sal Greco Show, the great Jack Stern. And Jack, now we have some crypto coins to play.
I think that's going down a very dangerous path given everything that's gone on with crypto recently, especially like the fast ascension during the AI boom and then the descension, which happened afterwards. Crypto is just on such unstable footing that I don't trust it as a currency. So please, if you're going to be donating to our platform, please give us US dollars or euros or another currency, which is a little bit easier to convert because we don't trust crypto out here.
Yeah, what I'm going to try to do is not on here, but I'm going to try to see if I can link a crypto wallet or something on salgreco.com. But I'm going to have to get informed on how this works because I don't have any crypto. It's
too boom or bust, too. Yeah. I mean, like those 4 cents could be worth $4,000 next week, or they could be worth nothing. Yeah. So, like, we're not willing to take that risk. I think that was more of a playful move by KNM 116.
KNM 116 just made me remember about a certain former mayor who did a rug pull with crypto. But it was for like $1 million involved in that.
That was hysterical, honestly. I think that made the show, and we're only 10 minutes into this thing. Getting donated to in cryptocurrency. I don't think on YouTube and Rumble and all my times watching live streams, Sal, I don't think I've ever seen anyone get tipped in crypto, ever.
Yeah, it's a new thing. But again, it's something I need to feature on salgreco.com so that because that crypto thing is something separate than U.S. currency, and it's a newer thing, and there's different platform. There's different ways of paying for it. I don't know everything. I got to get up to speed on the crypto thing. I've always taken a step back because of guys like the former mayor of New York City who did a rug pull, and it's always been like someone just mentioned it. Mike is here. We just said Brock Pierce is a shady guy. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're we're worried about getting involved with that kind of stuff. But also, listen, it was a crazy weekend. There was a lot of stuff that happened. So I think it's going to be great to have this whole discussion here. So I brought on a friend of the show, and he's the guest for today. Of course, he's a former NYPD sergeant. He's been through a lot. He knows a lot about corruption because he was uncovering it. And we're going to get to that too today as well. But none other than former NYPD Sergeant Stephen Lee from the system. The system unfiltered, not the other unfiltered. So, Steve, there was a lot that happened, and thank God here you don't have to worry about some maniac that would be in the chat that's obsessed over you. So get that out.
You know what's funny? I actually had the system unfiltered, and I was actually like doing videos already. And the only reason like I discovered the other show was because the name was so similar, and I was like, is somebody trying to take my idea? Like somebody trying to take my name? Like other cops with my name and stuff, but I don't know. Maybe it was a coincidence. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just saying. You do have your own platform. People can follow you there at System Unfiltered. It's on YouTube, and Steve does. He doesn't have it where it's time where every Monday, every Wednesday has a show, but he does put out shows and he does put out material. It's just he's got to get a regimen per se, and that's what you got. But Steve's also doing some other things in the background, so I don't want to.
Steve, we wanted to let you come on today to talk about actual substantive conversations, because on social media it seems like you're taking a lot of heat from people who don't even have their name in their handle. They don't have any accurate photo behind them, and they just want to attack you for seemingly no reason. So it's good to have you on our platform so we can talk about the actual important things. I know we're in an era where people prioritize style over substance. We're going to be talking about that at length throughout the show, with Mamdani threatening to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu and the attacks that took place outside 26 Federal Plaza this morning. But you've been taking a lot of unnecessary heat about your past and what took place in your work history, and we don't want to spend hours focusing on that. We want to talk about the meat and potatoes of what's actually taking place in the political and law enforcement landscape.
I got you.
Yeah, that's why I wanted you on, because I just don't want it to veer in. Well, he's not allowed on here anyway, that guy, but I don't want to veer into crazy land with the harassment and all that stuff, and I don't put up with that. And it's not that it's not a free speech or whatever. Look, imagine being in someone's home and you're outside and you try to come in someone's home and berate them in their home. That's how you got to view this. So you're allowed to say what you want, but everything has a limit. Just like in the police department. Oh, First Amendment right. No. It's limited. And examples of that limit. So I guess there's a few things right off the bat that happened. So Jack, what happened at 26 Federal Plaza this morning?
Unfortunately, this is breaking news as of 8:26 a.m. this morning. We're going to have the video muted. We're going to keep the volume off, and we're going to show you what happened. There was an explosion right outside 26 Federal Plaza. It looks like someone put a bomb outside the building, which ended up detonating. But thankfully, at least initial reports are indicating that no one was hurt. And the individual who put off the bomb was apprehended by law enforcement almost immediately, as you now see on your screen. He was confronted by federal agents, ICE agents, right outside the building, and then he was ultimately dragged away. Thankfully, no one was hurt. But this goes along the lines of what we've been talking about, guys, on this platform, of the promotion of violence, like the messaging saying we don't want to allow ICE agents to collaborate with local law enforcement agencies. This is happening primarily in blue cities, including New York with the NYPD and Mamdani. And this has provoked violence against ICE agents when they were trying to conduct deportations. The NYPD had to protect them. And now it's kind of evolved into going outside 26 Federal Plaza and throwing off a bomb, which is totally inappropriate. Listen, you want to stand there and you want to peacefully protest, that's your First Amendment right. We're First Amendment absolutists. But there needs to be boundaries and limitations, and the politicians involved can't keep flaming the flames of violence against these people, because someone's going to get hurt eventually. And remember, the ICE agents are just there to do their jobs. They're carrying out a federally directed agenda. So conducting violence against them is the epitome of shooting the messenger. It's totally unwarranted.
Now, Did they release the name of this guy yet?
No, not yet.
So they're not telling you what's his what's his background. For me, I know certain social engineers. I know what they're going to try to run to. But I have to. My number one question with anything that happens like this is, was this guy on any medication and was he on the radar? No, there's any discussion about that, meaning he was being monitored by the FBI, because all these guys that do this thing, like 9 out of 10 of them were monitored from the past, and then nothing happens. Like the FBI, nobody ever makes a move on them. There's no word on that yet.
No, there's no word on that, but it is a developing story. And there have been some comments released, which I'll be pulling up momentarily. But actually, let me pause the video right here, because some individuals on social media, guys, have been trying to identify the suspects using AI technology, but no one's been able to come to definitive conclusions yet. But this sick piece of crap, I mean, what are you doing? Detonating a bomb right outside 26 Federal Plaza. And this is an act of terrorism too. What were you trying to accomplish by hurting random people who aren't even involved in the deportation agenda?
Now, Steve, what do you think about this? Because this is a couple times now. We had, obviously, during the Knicks championship run, a lot of people were doing fireworks. There might have been IEDs, whatever. You had the infamous one that happened outside of Gracie Mansion, right? And now you have this. It seems to be things that happen all the time in New York City, every couple of weeks or a few months, something to do with some kind of, we'll say, a domestic act of terror. We don't want to classify that. What do you
before you chime in, let me also kind of point out here, because this is an update as of literally a couple minutes ago. Everyone's saying, oh, the NYPD can't collaborate with ICE. It's illegal. Mamdani said he's disallowing it. No, if there's a bomb that goes off, it's the NYPD's responsibility to investigate it. So here they are securing the crime scene. There are a couple detectives on the phone making calls, and they're going to do what they need to do to assist in the investigation because it's happening on their turf. I want to point that out. Anyway, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah. A couple of things. First, I absolutely do not agree with violence or, acts of terrorism. I can understand the hatred or the anger towards ICE. What is that noise? And their how do I say their aggressive tactics and stuff that's been going on, and it's because of the quota system, right? They have a quota. I think it was 1,000 people they got to deport every day or something like that. I forgot what it was. It's a ridiculous number, and it causes them to aggressively get these numbers. And of course, a lot of times they violate the law or whatever, they violate people's rights or to pick up the wrong people. But I do not agree with what just happened.
Well, I'd say this. Whoever says that the NYPD can't cooperate with ICE, it's during civil enforcement. It's not during criminal. And let's say if they're conducting a raid, then yes, they have to. They're going to be there as a backup, but they're not there to do civil enforcement. Like if they're going to run around and say, we're going to enforce this illegal, immigration, whatever. This guy is wanted for a federal crime. Well, that's when the NYPD cooperates with you. Understand? It's criminal stuff. They're always going to be together. It's the civil enforcement that NYPD cannot cooperate because it's actually a state law and a city law. And you got to be careful with that. You can't skirt it. So that's what the mayor means. Eric Adams said the same thing, but that's not how it actually works with criminal stuff. But yeah, this is a
fresh update as of literally seconds ago, 30 seconds ago. This statement was issued by the New York Downtown Hospital. One person suffered a minor injury, which is bad in of itself because this was a violent attack. And this was the statement that was issued this morning. An individual deployed an incendiary device outside of 26 Federal Plaza. The Federal Bureau of Investigation said in a statement, the individual has been taken into custody. Now, fill our audience in, guys. What does an incendiary device look like? How is that carried out? Because I believe that's a little bit different than the attack that we saw outside of Gracie Mansion. So do you want to fill the audience in and what kind of that?
Yeah, Steve.
What's up?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
I was reading the comments in the comment section.
Oh.
Me and Eric Sanders have the same harasser, but yeah, I mean, the NYPD absolutely can investigate and help with this investigation and stuff like that. It's criminal, and of course they can't, like Sal hit it right on the button. They can't help with the civil enforcement because we're a sanctuary state, and the laws prohibit it. But it still happens because you see us when we're in criminal court section and stuff like that, and somebody has a ICE hold or whatever, we still hold them for ICE. So I don't know if that counts as cooperation, but it still happens.
So this is odd. The NYPD has not issued a statement yet. That statement initially, the one that we just saw, was issued by the FBI, but we haven't heard anything from the NYPD, presumably because it's frowned upon to have any degree of anything that could be considered collaboration, because the low information crowd doesn't understand the difference between civil enforcement and protecting ICE agents who literally can be killed at the hands of rabid protesters. And Steve, just to add on to your point, ICE is being asked to deport a lot of these people because there's no documentation that they even exist. They're not paying taxes. No one knows who they are or what they're doing here. And the Trump administration now has altered their stance to the point where they're trying to give these people a path to coming back legally. But the problem is, like, there's no documented record of anything in terms of them even coming into this country. So they're completely unaccounted for. And another thing on that note as well is that DHS right now is actually going to the lowest hanging fruits on the Christmas tree in terms of who they're picking up. They're actually not going all over the country and snatching people off the streets, as the mainstream media would like to have you think. That's not what's happening. They're getting the people who have been identified as being undocumented here. In some cases for years, they don't have a driver's license. In some cases, they don't have plates on their cars. I mean, they're getting probably the largest offenders. And while it looks bad that they're being separated from their families, unfortunately, it's necessary. And if you recall, the Obama administration was doing the exact same thing when he was in office. It just was undercovered, and perhaps it was executed a little bit better because you weren't having people killed on the streets, innocent civilians. It was a little bit better. But when you really look at the circumstances in totality, nothing that's happening is absolutely horrible, as the media is leading you to believe.
Well, I'm going to say this too, again, with this ICE thing. The low information crowd doesn't know that, again, they're allowed to cooperate with the police department in a criminal manner. So this is a criminal matter, folks. An incinerator device in front of 26 Federal Plaza, you best believe everyone put their heads together and find out what the hell just happened. Because once again, that's a federal building. That means that it's going to go all the way up the chain in the federal government. I'm sure the president, who just had a big day yesterday with FIFA, he was notified of this because it has to go all the way up the chain, and so does the mayor. The mayor of the city has to know because now you have a domestic terrorist running around in New York City planting incinerator devices. So
yeah, this is a video that was just released by Benny Johnson, of course.
Of course, the social engineer Benny Johnson, right? But
this is a different. This is actually a different angle that was previously unreleased of the bomb that was detonated. So there seemed to be like an aftermath where there was this like major fire outside of the building, and there seemed to be subsequent bombs that were let off afterwards. See right here, it'll come onto your screen in a moment. Right here, let me slow it down frame by frame for our audience. There's a fire going, and then there's a second explosion. So this was probably a very, I mean, I don't want to speculate too much. We're probably going to be learning more as the day progresses, but this was a sophisticated and targeted operation. Then the fire department comes and puts the fire out. But still, I mean, it's just crazy to see something like this happening on the streets of New York City, especially when, again, you're shooting the messenger.
When you're talking about undocumented people, have you heard that city council is trying to pass a law, change the NYPD recruiting that they could become police officers now?
Yes, I saw that.
And that's actually coming more from Albany than the city council. Julia Salazar, state senator, is the one pushing that legislation, but it does have, unfortunately, a lot of support up in Albany. It seems like that bill is eventually going to be passed, which is also dangerous in its own right, because again, if someone's I'm not against having immigrants here, but you need to be documented. If we're all paying 30% of our income in taxes, you need to pay taxes too. You need to have documentation of who you are. If you go and steal from a grocery store, we need to have documentation of that. It protects everyone. It protects yourself. Steven, if an undocumented immigrant walks out into the middle of the street and they get hit by a car and they need to go to the hospital and there's no proof of insurance, there's no proof of identification, it's dangerous for them too. Like, people aren't looking at that angle of that. We need to give these people perhaps maybe a path to citizenship, but they can't just stay here undocumented. That should not be a viable solution.
Yeah, but I also gotta point out that when that happens, I'm pretty sure ICE is gonna come in and start arresting police officers that are undocumented. It's happened in other places, you know, like they're just gonna set themselves up. They're kind of like surrendering themselves, like, you know, at a point. If they're gonna come into the NYPD and then be undocumented, and then you're gonna see ICE come in and arrest them and take them, it's gonna be embarrassing.
Well, I'm sure we're going to find out if you keep this up to date, Jack. If they give out a name or any other more details on this thing. It's just a developing story, because it just happened before we went on air. So you know, what can I say? It's another incident, but it was another incident that occurred in the last couple of days besides the FIFA World Cup. Jack, you can even pull up my article about the infrastructure. What the hell?
One more quick update. I mean, this is such a quickly developing story that we're going to be updating this throughout the show. This is from a minute ago. As you can see here, the NYPD has essentially taken over this investigation. In the initial video that we showed, it was just federal agents converging around, detaining the suspect. But as this video progresses, you can see it's all NYPD cops standing outside the crime scene. See right here, it's all NYPD cops. And it seems like ICE has passed off the baton to the NYPD and saying, hey, you guys take over here. This is your territory. You can see ESU guys.
Oh, yeah. In a criminal case like this, the NYPD's got to be the lead. Listen, Homeland Security, you know, they do you know, immigration enforcement. This is not I mean, they know about certain things. Even if it's a terror plot, they would pass the baton off to JTTF or FBI. It's always going to be the NYPD's responsibility. Of course, they're gonna take the lead on that now. It's the NYPD's jurisdiction. So they have to do that to report whatever's going on. And if there is going to be the guys in custody, he's going to be arrested and put through the system by the NYPD. In fact, he's being fingerprinted over at over that 1PP. What was that? We bring the mass arrest. That's where they usually take them. Me and Steve would do that. You go to one police plaza and you would take this guy down there to get his fingerprint. Well, you don't want no one to know about it, but obviously everyone's going to know he's there. But so I expect this to be the NYPD's crime scene. NYPD is going to take the lead in this, and I'm sure, you know, you'll get an update on you know, who this guy is and what his agenda is. Did he leave a little note or what the hell, you know, with all of that? I'm sure that's all going to come out. But that infrastructure question, Jack, I wrote an article this weekend. I was trying to break down, and I actually have graphs in the article. It was a disaster what we saw. There was flooding all over the place. And I've been on this, you know, I mean, you can see some of the video. I can't believe. Look at this. This is in the MTA. I mean, this is both the responsibility of the mayor and the governor. This has been going on, Jack, 40 plus years, maybe more. I could go back to Howard Koch, and I'm old enough to know Mayor Koch. They were talking about infrastructure, and that was when Mario Cuomo was the governor. And I could go all the way back then. Okay, look at this. This is a public safety. I mean, God forbid this whole thing comes down. Everyone's perishing in one shot. And they do a lot of these patch-up jobs, but I don't see any plan from city and from local government or state government to say, we have a problem. The infrastructure is completely falling apart. The roads, the building, you saw a building was about to collapse in Midtown. Now look at this. Every time there's a lot of rain, it's flooding all over the place. You look at other cities, and I know, like, there's other old cities, London, you know, really old, like New York. New York was built in the 16 or 1700s. But at a certain point, Jack, they have to do something. I mean, I wrote a whole part about what agency is in charge. I mean, we didn't even go to the highways because the highways were flooded. It was water.
Oh, that was terrible. Yeah, there was a video that I'm going to be getting up shortly of the FDNY driving through the highway through torrential flooding, and there were people standing on top of their cars waiting to be rescued. And this is unfortunately, as you mentioned, Sal, a decades-old issue because the MTA is using infrastructure that was built before World War I. They're using equipment that's easily malfunctionable, and they're not addressing the problem. This is actually a big issue during the Adams administration as well. I don't want to fully blame Eric Adams because I don't think he's the sole culprit behind all of this. But when you neglect to address the floodwater draining issues and there's constantly floods, you're setting yourself up for disaster. And it's the old adage of you can't put Band-Aids on broken bones. And that seems what's happening here. It's also just the fact that we're talking about all these other things that are taking place in New York City, the wokeism, the DSA movement, the hatred toward police. And again, the most important issue, which is the infrastructure, is being neglected. That doesn't even account for all the people, Sal, and I've seen a lot about this too, who live in basement level apartments that are 65 years and older, that are being trapped because they're living at the bottom of these slopes where water is flooding into their apartment and they can't get out. So this is not only an infrastructure issue, but a public safety issue. Not to mention all the people I mentioned who were stuck on highways, who were stuck in the subway system and couldn't get out. I mean, this is bound at some point to have detrimental consequences. I don't know if this system is fully going to be repaired at any point in time because of how long it's been neglected. That's part of the problem. I mean, you need to really overhaul the drainage and take a look at the subway and take a look at the highway. I mean, part of the problem here is like these drains are being clogged and they have to bring someone in to unclog the drain, but you can't do that really. So they don't have enough proper drainage going on in the roads, and the potholes are totally getting clogged up, and there's just no system in place to address natural catastrophes. That's the problem.
Steve, I mean, you saw the weekend over there. What did you?
I'm a native New Yorker, right? Like I grew up in New York, so I'm 48 years old, and that's been going on forever.
Yeah,
as long as I can remember. You know, you can ask Sal. Like it's been going on forever. Flooding of subways, flooding of streets, and stuff like that. This DEP and MTA, they definitely need to get their shit together. You know, they have such huge budgets. They're always in debt. I don't know what the hell they're spending all their money on. They got congestion pricing now. They're raising the tolls and all that stuff, and they're not doing any upgrades to the system. You know, I used to see DEP come with like this giant claw that would go to the sewers and clean it out, like in the beginning of the season. But I haven't seen them in like over 20 years now. Like, so you know, it's unfortunate. You know, they definitely need to update the system. They definitely need to clean the sewers. You know, they need to come in with that claw again and start emptying out the debris and stuff like that. You know, I guess they were finding too much guns and you know other illegal stuff down the drain.
You know, Steve, the actual tunnels that they are under the city for numerous reasons. You know, the structural. You know, there's things down there that people don't even know about that they built, and over time, you know, there was water dams underneath there. That water originally, there was a whole system that was in place prior to the one that you see that runs the city today. All these things look like that. They're clogged. I mean, you're going to need, I think the projection would be somewhere between 20 or 50 billion to try to fix this. Again, that's you know, you'll be bankrupted. But this is something that you have to undertake this at a certain point, Steve. I mean, look, it's getting worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. Patching it up.
They don't have to do it all at once, right? They could. Yeah. All these years, like for 40 something years, it's been happening. Like, well, it's been happening forever, right? So I'm pretty sure it's been happening before, you know, I was born too. But for all these years, they could have been slowly upgrading the system. You know, like you have places like China, Japan, Hong Kong and stuff like that, where the subway systems are beautiful. London, like you said, you know, like you're in Europe and everything. Like all the other countries, the super cities, the transportation is immaculate. You know, they have like gates, glass windows that block the platform so people don't get pushed down to the platform and stuff like that. You know, like it's clean. You know, you don't have flooding going on. It's needs to be changed. You know, it needs to be fixed, and they need to start fixing it.
Steve, you don't even have to go as far as London or Paris or Europe. I think Paris is actually bad with this sort of thing because remember they had a heat wave recently and no one had air conditioning. People were sweating to death. So Paris isn't exactly the poster child example here, but you can go across the country to the great Midwest, states like Oklahoma and Colorado. They suffer from tornadoes and other natural catastrophes. They have bunkers underneath the homes where people can go downstairs to like basement level areas to kind of hibernate and try and survive whenever there's a hurricane, you know, or a tornado, excuse me. But New York City doesn't have any of these things. And the problem is you're playing with fire because when it rains, all you have is these covered potholes, which block the drainage system because when the water goes there, it doesn't drain properly, right? So all you need to do is you need to create fixes in the system. You need to repair the underground infrastructure, which is just way easier said than done. But you need to be able to drain water out when you have these sorts of things. Because remember, it's not just rain in the spring and summer, it's also snow in the winter. And when that melts, there's issues with that. So the lack of preparation for natural catastrophes when you're a region of the country that's suffering from extreme weathers on both ends of the spectrum is a problem. Cities like Boston and Chicago, I mean, they don't have it perfectly right, but I do feel that they're better equipped to handle all of these things. You look at what's going on in Syracuse, a lot of the houses now have much stronger tops so they don't crumble when there's snow. You need to adapt to the elements and the conditions of where you live, and the city's done a remarkably poor job doing that.
Yeah, and I mean, Brooklyn Girl NYC said, infrastructure, we keep talking about it. No one wants to do anything about it. I worked at the Brooklyn Bridge Park, and the BQE is patched with metal plates. Where is the mayor? You know what else? Where's the governor? I mean, they all ran. If you ever pay attention to these campaigns that they run, they always mention infrastructure. In fact, everyone's favorite president talks about this. Our roads, our bridges, our airports. He's done nothing that he's gotten there. Barely anything accomplished, right, with that. Same thing with the governors and the mayors. They always say, we need the infrastructure, and then they don't do anything. And listen, this is going to be a mass undertaking because I understand that you can't shut down the city. And I know this, that you can't, I mean, look, you can only displace the water. You can't get rid of this if it happens. But this system they have in place, it's going to take, you know, years, maybe decades to try to at least curb this. Because I don't know if you can ever completely fix this because it is New York City. It's a 300, 250-year-old city, maybe more. You can't leave it like that. Eventually, the dam's going to burst. And what's going to happen is someone, or a huge, swath of people are going to get caught up in this, and they're going to perish in some major catastrophe because something collapsed, or water rushed in, a building, the foundation collapsed because a rush of water came in, kind of like what happened in Coney Island on the Hurricane Sandy. And they spent a ton of money on that, and they still haven't even finished the projects of that time, which I was doing research on. They're finishing it later this year. That's from 2012. 14 years, and they still haven't even fixed some of the infrastructure problems that they got money from the local government and state government to fix some things. And now you have even bigger problems because you can't keep patching things. At a certain point, you got to draw the line. And this BQE and that Cross Bronx Expressway, another problem is the BQE, right? There's the way it's constructed, it's gonna eventually, something's gonna happen there near the promenade over there, and near Atlantic Avenue. You could oversee, like they made a park over there. That second layer where the cars are, it was never designed to handle that weight. And there's been engineers, they have to figure out a way to push that traffic somewhere else to either repair all of that, tear it down and do it all over again, or construct a completely new highway to subvert that, which would cost billions. And now you have to deviate all that traffic off of there into the streets, which would be like catastrophic. And I know everyone wants to kick the can down the road, but what I'm telling you is going to happen, whether it's today, tomorrow, or years from now. I'm one to say, let's just tackle this issue now. There's no point in why are we holding back? Because it's going to collapse. Just don't let it collapse on your watch. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you know how the city is, like the Van Wyck, for instance, it's still under construction. They still haven't
I
finished.
know the Van Wyck is forever. That's
That's
in
been,
Queens, right? He is in Queens.
yeah, that's been under construction and being renovated like forever. It's always been like that, right? So
You could take a swim down this thing. Look at the car. You could get out of your car and swim.
Either you guys want to go kayaking there? It looks like it'd actually be fun, aside from maybe the diseases you can get from the rainwater.
God,
Look at this FDNY firefighter swimming through the water to try and make rescues as well. I mean, it's gotten out of control at this point.
and this is what I'm saying. You see, on this platform, we're not one-sided. Going after someone because of their religion or their hatred for certain groups because he's the mayor. This is where you got to hit the mayor. You were elected on this big promise to all these people. One of the things that I'm almost positive you touched up on is infrastructure. This weekend was a complete disaster, right? What is he going to do to fix this? And then in a crazy twist, and you're going to jump all over this now, Jack. When this is going on, this guy goes to the media and he says he's looking into his legal department on how he's going to arrest the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu if he comes to New York City. Listen, now look, I don't know priority straight or listen. If this is you're trying to throw a bone to your radicals that listen to you, this is a social engineering, some kind of social engineering experiment. We all know that you are never going to arrest this guy. Just get this out of your head. You don't run the country. There's all kinds of diplomatic issues, even trying to do it, enforcing laws that were, things from another country here. I mean, this guy doesn't know the law.
Hunter and White. I'm going to go off on a tangent in a minute. I'm going to let Sal finish before I do that, but I want to address your comment first. Mamdani will do it. No, he's not the dictator of South Sudan. And even the dictator of South Sudan in a communist nation would have perhaps more checks and balances than that. Anyway, Sal, continue. And then I also want to give an update here. Mayor Mamdani just put out a statement. And look at the bottom part of this statement, too. I mean, for the guy who says there's no collaboration between ICE and NYPD, the first thing he says is my team is in touch with the NYPD and we will support the federal investigation. So, yeah, buddy, I mean, you think it's good to incite this violence, but when it happens, the NYPD is the first person you call. How about that?
Also, it was a good thing Joel Ramirez reminded me. On that issue of infrastructure, I believe the city is actually sinking. They say 4 to 5 inches a year. It's sinking. So remember this when you're dealing with the infrastructure. I want to freak people out, even though you don't feel it. Over time, you will feel it, which this has happened in other, civilizations prior to us, many decades and moons ago. The earth moved underneath them as well. I'm just saying at a certain point, you have to address this. And I don't know where his priorities are, but Jack, I saw that and I said, this guy trolling people because it's not a real thing. But you definitely riled up a ton of people on a day when the city, literally, you saw the videos we just posted. He just said he's worried about that and not that the city has, all kinds of issues with water all over the place. So what exactly did he say, Jack? And what is a ton of backlash with this? Was a really dumb thing to say.
I mean, I'm laughing at his stupidity here because he never said, first, let's give a timeline here. First, he said when he was on the campaign trail, he was going to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, right? He was the dictator of all planet Earth. He was going to do it the minute he stepped into New York. He had to promise all of his pro-Palestine supporters that he was going to be supporting their agenda. So he was definitively going to do it. Then now he's changed his tune and revised his wording. And he says he's still looking into arresting Netanyahu if Israeli leader visits New York. And I mean, it doesn't look like a stark contrast at face value, but definitively saying you're going to arrest someone and then realizing like, hey, maybe I can't actually do this because he didn't commit a crime on my territory, like acknowledges that this might not actually be within my power of authority. And listen, buddy, stick to worrying about the Department of Sanitation and the infrastructure issues that are going on and being a civil advocate for the Democratic Party and appearing on every podcast and left-wing media outlet on planet Earth. Because listen, I don't like Bibi Netanyahu. I think I speak on behalf of a lot of the Jewish community when I say that he's stoking the fans of the flames of violence in terms of supporting the military-industrial complex and trying to create more attacks with Iran and all of these other things. But you do not have the power of authority to arrest a foreign leader the minute he steps foot in your jurisdiction. First of all, he didn't commit a crime on your turf. And no, if he walks across the street when the light is red for jaywalking, you can't arrest him for that either. He didn't commit a crime on your turf. He didn't do anything wrong. You need to maintain cordiality with world leaders, regardless of your agreements and disagreements that take place. Because remember, there's foreign agreements that are in place. Probably Mamdani is unaware of this because he's making TikTok videos as we speak. But there's foreign peace agreements in place which disallow you from doing that. So you need to maintain cordiality. And this is just another stupid publicity stunt. You can't realistically arrest the guy, and he did nothing wrong. So saying you're seeing if there's legal loopholes that allow you to arrest him is completely ridiculous. And you guys were members of the NYPD, right? If Mayor Mamdani says, I want to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, your bosses are going to probably start laughing to themselves saying, for what? He didn't do anything wrong. He's walking around here trying to actually help New York City by providing federal aid, and he has good relationships with some people within the Jewish community. So what are you hoping to accomplish out of arresting Benjamin Netanyahu? I mean, you're trying seriously, you're trying to earn brownie points amongst a small minority of your demographic base, and you look like an idiot as a result. You're not allowed to arrest the guy. You can't do it. Stop even talking about it because you're looking stupider and stupider with each talking point that you put out there. I mean, it's absolutely, again, I want to reiterate, I don't like the guy at all, but that doesn't give you grounds for just putting handcuffs on him the minute he steps in New York City. And you deep down, Mamdani, you realize you can't do this either. Let's be honest with ourselves. Otherwise, you wouldn't be looking into. I mean, is this guy like trying to weaponize the justice system now to arrest this guy? Like, what's going on here? It's ridiculous.
Steve, what do you think? Because I'm sure you saw that over the week.
Yeah, I don't like Netanyahu or whatever his fucking name is. I can't even say his name, but I think he's an evil person. You know.
Yeah.
I wish we did have the power to arrest him, but unfortunately, we do not have the power to arrest him. He's out of our jurisdiction. He has diplomatic immunity, and you absolutely cannot arrest him unless you do weaponize it, right? Politically weaponize it, and you find something that he violates while he's here.
The hypocrisy involved is probably what's most baffling, because I know this guy thinks he operates with a different set of rules than everyone else, but he's the one who complains about the weaponization of the legal system with ICE agents coming into his city and arresting people who, again, are undocumented here illegally. Now he's trying to weaponize the legal system, and I've heard he's called legal counsel as well, to try and arrest a foreign leader, to try and make a political statement, and he's criticizing President Trump for this. I mean, this goes to show that uniparty elites are distant cousins from the same family. They operate the exact same way. They call each other out when they have when they have disagreements over the logistics behind it. But at the end of the day, they do the exact same thing. This is a ridiculous idea. And arresting a world leader, I mean, it's going to inspire other people to try and do similar things. So it's stupid all the way around, and you don't accomplish anything. Bibi Netanyahu, are you going to try and justify keeping him in New York City? He can't even be extradited back to Israel. I mean, this is he's an evil person. We can all agree on that. Jewish people think he's evil because we want to kind of calm. And I was at a synagogue yesterday talking with a lot of Jewish people about this, and they all were saying that we need to calm down the attacks that are happening in Israel because there's too much violence. There's an attack. There's a retaliatory bomb strike. There's a missile strike the next day. We need to kind of calm down the violence that's going on, which is largely being funded by Israel and also taxpayers here in the United States. Now we're $200 billion in debt plus because of the war that's taking place in Iran. So we need to calm the conflict down, and stoking the flames of fire is not a solution. And arresting a world leader who's directly involved is going to make him angrier not more inclined to do what you want him to do. So again, like we all agree that he's an evil, bad person, but that doesn't allow you to weaponize the legal system against him.
Yeah, Baby Lou says he's also more focused on taking money from the pension fund. PBA recently said, you can't say it will never happen, but we're actively fighting it. That's very concerning. I told people that a while ago. Oh, but you'll see. These guys are very conniving and find ways around things. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the soccer mom as your police commissioner right now. Special Hagen says, perhaps Mamdani would be better equipped to handle terrorist incidents if he actually had a security clearance. Why doesn't he have one, and will he ever get it? I don't know if you guys out there realize this. The last two mayors of New York City did not have a security clearance. Eric Adams didn't have one because he was corrupt. And this guy doesn't have one because they believe, I think Marco Rubio believes he has ties or knows people that have, shady backgrounds, we'll say, or, have the tendency to might be connected to some of these terror networks, underground networks. So he does not have a security clearance. So that means the soccer mom has to get everything to him or one of her people. That's just like Eric Adams did. So the last two mayors of New York City have not had a security clearance, which is that is a fact. So people out there should know, you keep electing people that can't be trusted.
No, that's an excellent point, Sal, and I'm happy you brought up the Jessica Tisch connection, because Jessica Tisch is Jewish. She's very involved with the Israeli community in New York City and beyond because she's a socialite, a national powerhouse. And do you really think that she would comply with any of this? I know Mamdani likes to say, Tisch does whatever I want because I'm the mayor. But in reality, he's delegated all the responsibilities to her. And she would never, not in a million years, go and arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. Also, chances are, I want to point this out too. If Benjamin Netanyahu is coming to New York City, he's probably coming to meet with the UN leaders to try and create more peace. So arresting him is counterproductive to the end goal because he's trying to come to a peace agreement. Mamdani's calling for a peace agreement, as are a lot of other people all across the world. And you're going to create more violence by arresting him? It's just it's political rhetoric. It's not even a political stunt because it's never going to happen in actuality. This is just some crazy fantasy that Mamdani has. And he's pretty much just throwing bait to the angry sharks being his constituents who are pro-Palestine, who are out on the streets in New York City protesting. A lot of them paid because they're social engineers on the internet. But, you're not getting anything out of arresting this guy, and it's counterproductive to your end goal. And it epitomizes the issues going on in America right now because we prioritize rhetorical fantasies that appease a very small demographic of extremists without thinking about the actual consequences here.
Yeah, so I think you're underestimating these politicians be able to weaponize, the justice system. I mean, I've been a victim of it, right? With the Manhattan DA, and the NYPD, and Eric Adams and stuff like that. And even though Eric Adams was screaming it and got a pardon from Trump and stuff like that, and Trump was screaming it from the Manhattan DA and stuff like that. And when I brung it up, got silence. It's very dark how it happens, and they can do it. I think they could find a way to do it.
I do believe that they pick and choose their cases, though, Stephen, because when you look at the logistics behind it, I mean, Trump was found guilty in a federal lawsuit in New York, right? So the way I see this is there's enough guardrails in place when it comes to world leaders and the consequences that they're going to be facing, to the point where this is never going to be a feasible outcome.
There's one thing, though, with Netanyahu, because he's a world leader, this is a non-issue. This is never going to happen. He's throwing a lot of bones to his little crowd and getting them all riled up. This won't happen, folks. But for me, what really needs to be asked is to the mayor, and especially his administration, is you prioritize saying this on a day where your city had all kinds of infrastructure issues. By the grace of God, unless it hasn't been reported, nobody perished because of this. You're worried about arresting someone who's going to be here in New York City for the UN, for UNGA, right? So the United Nations General Assembly, which you can't even think of. By the way, the president is going to be there as well. And this guy, whether you like it or not, he's chumming with the president. Now, again, irrespective of people's feelings, and a lot of us have our own opinions on Netanyahu. I personally feel that maybe Israel needs a change in leadership, and I think things would go a lot smoother if by the way, he's been there for over 20 years. The president can only be there for 8 years in this country. So just think about how that's being run by a guy who's there for 20 plus years. That's not a knock on the people. That's a knock on the government. See, that's where your focus should be if you're listening out there. The government, not the people. So he's been there for 20 years, and I understand a lot of the things that go on, but the actual arresting this guy because he steps foot in New York City, that won't happen. I mean, look, there was a separate issue that happened with the Tate brothers in Miami. They got the U.S. Marshals grabbed them because they're going to be extradited to England to face some kind of trial, whatever it is, some kind of criminal charges they're looking to indict them on over there. Okay, so that's just goes to tell you, but that's different because they're not world leaders. I mean, here's a video of Andrew Tate basically being picked up by the U.S. Marshals in Miami. So here's an instance where, they could do this kind of, you're going to need, but again, it's federal. They have to extradite this guy. So how are you going to achieve arresting a world leader and trying to enforce? It's like you're enforcing international law, which I've never seen. I mean, you tell me if a guy in law enforcement's ever done this in a local police department, enforce international law, which is completely out of it's not going to work. It's just social engineering. And I give it to Mamdani, but again, someone needs to ask him, Mr. Mayor, you were more worried about this on a day where the city was literally flooding. You need to prioritize what it is that you need, what a mayor is supposed to worry about. This is not one of them. And I know you're trying to do the dog whistle routine. This is real stupid. It doesn't work for me. So
we definitely don't have jurisdiction. We can't even give them a summons.
It's diplomatic. It's stupid. It's really crazy that we went down this road.
Yeah, let's touch on the Tate case for just a moment here. Because I think that's very interesting as well. Tate being arrested. People are speculating that because he's kind of part of the Trump family's clique, he's not going to be facing any charges. He's going to be given a presidential pardon. We'll see. As of right now, I'm inclined to believe that that's not the case because the marshals that arrested him and are now extraditing him back to the UK did so not only with an arrest warrant, but a lot of information behind them. And remember, Trump is not someone who's going to necessarily go and stick his neck out for people when they're in hot water because he doesn't want to risk his own reputation. He needs to protect himself.
I thought that case is in England. It's not in America. He can't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He could, theoretically speaking, he could try and get involved and say, you're not allowed to extradite him. You need to try him here. He could really be putting his fingers all over that, but he's picking and choosing his cases very wisely. Sure. Thus far, he's not involved.
Andrew Tate, how much is he worth?
Andrew Tate's net worth. I'm going to look it up right now, but I'm inclined to say in the hundreds of millions of dollars. So,
okay, if I've learned
50 million.
If you learn anything,
what is he being extradited for? What is this? A sex ring?
They're not saying.
We're not getting. So we're not. There were claims of human trafficking, but thus far, Stephen, we've gotten no additional information because the case is being sealed. So that's where that is.
Oh, so they said Brooklyn NYC girl saying the Mr. Mayor's about to have a press conference around 12:10 with small business.
We'll see if that happens. Actually, there was another video that was just released. I want to take a look at this real quick because this shows. So there was an incendiary device involved, but there was actually a fire that began beforehand. This video caught, by the way, by a spectator who happened to be in the office building right across the street. Look at this. It looks like the suspect poured kerosene onto the pavement, and then he lit something on fire. And then as he tries to run away, you're going to see in a moment, he's quickly apprehended here by federal agents.
Wait, how did this person that's recording, how did they know that this person was going to do something?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
You just had the phone out? Is this like convenient? Oh, I'm videotaping something. I just happen to be filming this guy who's just, all out of nowhere, comes out of left field, and camera scene everywhere.
With the perfect camera angle too. I mean, look at this as well. I want to go back a couple of frames here. So he pours something on, then he runs away, looking like he's getting like another explosive device that he wants to throw on top of it. But he's quickly confronted by one agent, and then all of them start coming to his assistance. Thank God. I do find that to be very suspicious, and I find it to be doubly suspicious that we see all these firsthand accounts first from the street after the fact, and then like an hour later, then all of a sudden we get this different camera angle from someone recording in the window. How did they conveniently know that this was happening? Were they recording the guy perhaps by coincidence, thinking that he was doing something else, and then they caught this half of it on video? That individual does need to be questioned by law enforcement, because it's weird that he was just right there in the right place at the right time.
Baby Lou mentioned something right good. She says, saying, Sal, they claim that crime is down so much in the subway, but last night a woman was shot in the chest during a robbery of a purse. Where is the governor? And, the governor should be on the campaign trail. Now, look, like I said, I know everyone, certain people on WABC radio throwing pom-poms for Bruce Blakeman. He's got no shot. There's no Republicans going to win in that state. But they should ask Governor Hochul, what's your plan going forward? I mean, there was a disaster in the city, infrastructure-wise, and you're another one constantly seen with the Buffalo Bills owner, right?
Oh, yeah.
And at the stadium over there. And there's rumors, I don't know, this is another thing I'm getting through the grapevine through sources, is that she wants to move one of the football teams into New York. Something to do with Westchester County. They're looking for an area there that they could just drop a stadium, because I think she sees the benefit of pocketing money like she's doing with the Buffalo Bills. Because there's some.
So this is interesting, and I want to pull this. I'm going to either pull this up or post it later. Terry Pagula and Kim Pagula, both part of the same family, donated the maximum allotted amount to Hochul's reelection campaign, which is $174,600 to her reelection bid. And they recently had Highmark Stadium, which is the new Buffalo Bills stadium, rebuilt. I don't know why they didn't put a roof over it. Apparently they have this new thing that blocks snow over 30% of the stadium because there's a lot of snow, but it seemed like there was some weird, sketchy collaborations there. Now they're getting ultra involved. The Pagulas are the classic, what I like to describe as uniparty elites. I mean, they've been more Republican in the past, but they've leaned Democratic more recently. And they're ones that just try and exploit the system. And they're doing a lot of favors on behalf. They're getting a lot of favors, that is, on behalf of Kathy Hochul.
Kathy Hochul is more conservative than she is, let's say, radical. She plays up to that base, but her whole career was always more conservative, follow Democrat. Like that was, I mean, she was in Congress, but her husband, I believe, owns a food, like he delivers food to places, like he has a food company. So he's probably going to get that business from the Buffalo. But someone should look into this. The Buffalo Bill Stadium, that should be one thing. And if this is just a play. This is just what I'm hearing. I'm not 100% on this. It's just this is an allegation, and I hear him through sources. The play would be, obviously, she's good friends with Soccer Mom. Soccer Mom's family does own MetLife Stadium and does own the Giants. If you could somehow convince them, hey, you should move back to New York because she got the Bill Stadium done. That's how she's thinking right now. Is that's hearing it from the grapevine as she's trying to move. She wants one of those football teams in New York State, meaning bringing them to the Westchester County area. Look around there. Whatever land you see that's open, that might be the spot they want to put a stadium there. I don't know when, but it's probably going to be in this after the election. After the election, you might start hearing about this. But this is something a new on a casino there too.
I'm actually happy Joel Ramirez brought that up, because that was kind of a sketchy process that happened under the Adams administration. They initially said they were going to be issuing 5 casino licenses within the tri-state area, Yonkers being included. but now it's gone radio silent, especially since Steve Cohen got his casino license. We're not going to talk about the Mets today. I'm not going to do that to you, Sal. But once Cohen got his license, it seemed like they now want to build this like huge powerhouse in Queens that's going to it's going to be double the size of what it was supposed to be. And now they're going to take away one of those licenses because they gave it to him.
Steve, they should just call it Soccer Mom Stadium or Soccer Mom Casino, because the Tisch family is going to, they're going to move over to Giants. That's what I could see this happening, actually.
And it's going to hurt a lot of the Asian community here, because, you know, us Asians, it's like gambling's in our blood, right? It's been going on in our culture forever. And for, you know, they already have buses that, you know, bring you to Resort World and stuff like that, or Atlantic City and you know, all these other places, and Mohegan Sun, Foxwoods. And now with this casino coming out here, you're going to have so many people just getting off of work, you know, who are trying to make ends meet and trying to do that dream where they could hit it big, and they're just going to go over to casinos and lose all their money. And, you know, all these people are going to get like in financial debt. You know, you can ruin a lot of families, because a lot of, you know, people break up, you know, get divorces and stuff like that because of gambling, you know, because the husband's like gambling too much or whatever and stuff like that, and ruining family and gambling away the kids' college tuitions and everything, and you know, no food on the table. It's going to ruin a lot of families, you know. And they have a coalition over here, and they're, you know, been protesting the casinos. I've been part of it, and it was unsuccessful, you know. Unfortunately, money talks, you know. Money talks,
and it might be successful in terms of bringing in some additional revenue in, but it also feels like it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. Also, remember, the casino is a private corporation, so they do pay taxes, and they're going to be looking to get every tax break imaginable because it's Steve Cohen. I mean, this is the guy who had to pay $2 billion worth of IRS violations years ago. So they're going to be looking for every tax break imaginable, and it's going to be about private profits, not helping.
But it's being built on public land. They're taking a park away.
Yeah, they're taking a park away, and again, this casino is going to be double the size of what it was.
Cohen's casino, though, he's investing. It's completely, you know, being funded by him and his little investment crew. But they're building a park over there. They're doing the subway. They're using their own money to fix that whole area. And that area was garbage for years when it was Shea Stadium, now Citi Field. I never had a problem with that, because I said, this guy's going to fund this on his own and put a community park and have housing there, and it's all coming out of his pocket. They just needed the use of the land. And he has his own parking lot there. But this casino scheming that's going to happen now in the future, because they bring one of the football teams back to New York, that's going to be all a whole. It is a rigged casino, like Baby Lou said. It's like it's rigged in her favor and her friends, and it makes sense because the Tisches own the Giants, so that's an easy step to get it. Money's not going to be the issue. The problem is going to be, where is this going to go, and the land. And you're probably going to start to hear this after she gets reelected in November.
So you think that's an interesting hypothesis, that she's going to wait until after the election to talk about it? Because remember, it's going to be partially funded through taxpayer money. And what is Kathy Hochul's MO? It's the classic bait and switch technique, right? She talks about, we need renewable forms of energy to make things better for the power grid. Great idea. But then all of a sudden, Steve, you look at your tax statement and you realize that your taxes have gone up by 10%. And you're like, wait a minute, what is this going to? A construction project that's not going to be done for another 10 years. And the nature of it is very sketchy as well, because there's a lot of deals that are taking place behind closed doors that you don't hear or see or even get to vote on. So that's kind of the part of the problem as well. Listen, if Hochul wants to have 3 football teams in New York State, that's all good and well, but the logistics behind constructing the stadium doesn't make sense, especially right now. It's bad that the Jets and the Giants play in New Jersey to begin with, because it's not benefiting New York State in any way, but it's too little too late, in my opinion. I mean, this is something that either should have been addressed in the 1960s when the owners were building the stadium, or should be addressed way down the line when the financial ecosystem is much better.
Well, they tried to move it before, and it fell through, didn't it?
But yeah, it fell through because no one saw it as being a viable option in terms of piecing out a chunk of land to build it and the cost.
Remember,
How are you going to rationalize that?
But remember, if it's with a casino, it's going to be worth everyone's while. That's what it's all about, because now they have these casino licenses, and this is the new wave of sports, is bringing a casino with the whole, like it's a baseball stadium or whatever, a football stadium, and then it's got a casino and this little village of shops, and this is where everybody puts their hand in a cookie jar. So be prepared. You heard it here first. There's a plot behind the scenes of trying to bring back one of the football teams, at least one of them, to somewhere in Westchester County. There's an empty plot of land. If you see it, start measuring, is that's where they want to put something there. But it's just,
one more big tidbit on this piece of information. So the average length of a casino license in New York State, and this is per the NYS Gaming Commission as well, is 10 years. But Steve Cohen's casino license is 30 years in terms of the period of operation. So he got a casino license that's 3 times what the usual one is. And that's not good, because there's going to be changes to the regulations that he's going to find loopholes in that don't apply to him. I mean, he's not, I don't think the guy's planning on, he's quite old. I mean, he's in his 60s at this point. I don't think he's planning on operating casinos for another 30 years. But it gives him this like crazy amount of power that's not good for anyone. And it's the Cohen family too, because that's going to get passed on to his wife and kids at some point.
Yeah. So we hit a lot of topics with all politics and infrastructure, but now the main event. Everybody wants to hear about NYPD news, right? There's a ton of it. So I'm going to start reeling off things. Number one, and I want your take especially, Steve. We found out, right, through sources, and I actually notified DCPI. I wrote a whole article about it. This lieutenant, Kathleen Guerrero, who worked in the chief of personnel division, right? So she's the right-hand woman to Chief Benoit. As a lieutenant, you're in charge of like all the administrative stuff. She gets transferred from there to the 5-2. Now, what's being told, and this is through sources, is that the reason this happened is the soccer mom somehow, very recently you saw that they started raiding everyone again. Here we go with the merry-go-round. And they took out, one of the people was Tariq Shepard, right? He's the alleged mastermind of everything. So the communications, now NYPD, if you remember how this happened, the FBI did this in conjunction with the DOI, but it was the NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau that referred everything over. So they have a hand here with everything. Somehow, in his communications, someone or the actual communications are on soccer mom's desk or in her vicinity. She saw that Kathleen Guerrero, who knows Tariq Shepard but is not involved in any of his whatever they're looking at with him, was saying some things about the soccer mom. Therefore, that's how she got transferred, because you went from the personnel division to 5-2, and that's usually an administrative transfer. And here's another catch. Those transfer sheets you used to see that, we see that, I would post, or anyone could post these things. First was a public document. They are now putting it through. When you get it from the computer or, it's printed out, that part says confidential, which is BS. For anyone who does this, I would like to, if they're trying to use a patrol guide against you, because this is what she's doing is she doesn't want information out. She doesn't want any whistleblower. And you have every right to blow the whistle on any kind of corruption. She wants to not deal with that. She wants to stomp out anyone who complains or leaks about things and then crush you. So you don't take care of the problem, take care of the people that are saying something about it, or actually following the law. That's what she's doing. So they transfer this woman who, by all intents and purposes, she's very quiet, minds her business, doesn't bother anyone. She's sitting in the 5-2 now. She's a couple of months short of her 28th year. But, of course, Thompson, the chief of internal affairs, who's playing footsie with a lot of people in his office, apparently his whole office is doing that. What do you think is going to happen there? Because I think there's more than just administrative trend. She's got to be looking over her shoulders now because the SOCOM's got a bullseye on her. And the word, Steve, in One Police Plaza, they say that the soccer mom is like a mafia family. They're trying to say the Tisch family, you don't want to mess with them. I can't stop laughing. It's definitely Joe Cop rhetoric, because if you think that. But that's what they're saying. And this allows this whole snowball, right? But
I heard some things also about Tisch that she's very hard to work with. She moody. Her attitude's not that great. I definitely believe that internal affairs or somebody at internal affairs sent that to Tisch. And as soon as she saw it, yeah, she did the Cash Daughtry, where it's like, oh, you want to talk shit about me? Okay, I'm gonna transfer you. And my advice to the lieutenant is get a lawyer, perhaps call Eric Sanders up, and put in your papers.
Well, it's not that easy, Steve, and that's part of the problem. Like, a lot of people are scared for the careers. We don't know how much time on the job this person have. If they're getting close to retirement, they may want to stick it out. But with Tisch, I mean, I've defended her in certain areas. I've given her the benefit of the doubt when she's had deviants under her who committed improprieties. Because I said, look, I mean, she didn't hire all these people. It's not like a Fortune 500 company where you can walk in and bring in all your own troops, right? So, I mean, I'm sympathetic in that regard. But Steve, you have to realize I covered her when she was with the Department of Sanitation when I was working radio. It's common knowledge that she's tough to work with. And if you're not in her clique, then you're kind of screwed and you get ostracized. But this retaliation and these personal vendettas that are being held by Cash Daughtry and now Jessica Tisch, it's terrible because it's part of a larger issue. But Tisch feels empowered to the point where she can do all of these things without facing consequences. And the media is not going to cover any of this stuff because it doesn't fit their narrative. They love smashing Mamdani over the head. And also, I mean, she's friends with the Trump family. So it's like the crime syndicate is supporting one another, and there's no support base for the rank and file members of the police department who are being victimized by all of this.
Okay, but Jack, is she wrong? Is she wrong that she's not going to get away with it? She's not the first. She's not the last. It's what happens in NYPD. It's the culture that happens in NYPD. Sal knows it. Sal's a victim of it too. And there's no accountability for it. And that's the reason why they do it, because they know they get away with it. And they know they could do it.
That's one issue. I just saw something else in the chat, which is, Tabitha Foster brought this up. So she says, tell us about the rookie cop brother that was fairly shot in the eye. How did that happen? I'll tell you how that happened. Okay, so this is what I'm getting through my sources. So first of all, the name of I can't get the exact name of who this is, but allegedly they're from the 42nd precinct. They are suspended right now. Again, these orders you're not going to see because soccer mom's trying to cover the holes, but now you got to just know that they're going on, and it's hard to get the actual piece of paper or through the computer because they're trying to say that public documents are now confidential. This is the soccer mom's world over there. Guys, read up on the law. That's not the law. But so this individual, this police officer, he's a rookie. He's from the 4-2, allegedly. He's been suspended, and he's going to be pending charges. Why, you ask? His brother, the story is that he was cleaning his gun. Steve, cleaning your gun, or how the hell you pull the trigger and something happens, right? So he got shot in the face, essentially, and that's why he perished. But his brother allegedly worked for that politician's name I was mentioning, Al something, who works for he's an assemblyman in New York State. So the brother, who's a really nice guy, worked for this assemblyman's making a lot of noise with this. And it's going to lead to
Al Taylor is his name.
Al Taylor, that's his name. Al Taylor. He worked for Al Taylor allegedly. So he's making a lot of noise behind the scenes, and expect this. They're going to release his name eventually. And he's going through it right now as we speak, because he knew. They said allegedly walked in. He says, I don't want to talk to anyone. I need a lawyer. So he was smart enough to know that. But he's going to be charged with negligent homicide, because obviously you are still in control of your gun. And this happened not too long ago in the locker room. And I don't know what happened with that one, but as a police officer, you're responsible for your firearm. And I just don't know how you go from you're cleaning your gun and this thing ends up shooting your brother in the face.
Well, that excuse was probably given to him by the delegate. Say that you were cleaning your gun, because there's no other excuse for it, right? he's probably playing with his gun, waving it around, showing his brother because he's brand new on the job. They're excited, and then boom, went off. And that's unfortunate. But I think his career is done. He's still on probation. The right thing would be to fire him.
And there's also something that happened too. I don't want to release the guy's name. On Friday, also there was another rookie police officer. That individual took their own life, and I didn't want to release anything because I always think of people's families, and their family should know first of what just happened. It shouldn't come from media or a cop or a former cop. Another cop's gonna have to go to the door and inform them. But that was a sad thing that happened, and it appears, again, a lot of cops have a lot of issues. Obviously, you can't go to EAU because they'll take your information and hand it over to medical division. So, this is a rough business where it's almost like you don't have any rights. You get treated like garbage, and it's mental gymnastics for 20 plus years, and you have to survive it. But if you do have an issue, I would always try to reach out to someone very close to you. I don't know if you wanted to be a cop because they got big mouths, but someone close to you, if you're having issues, domestic issues, whatever it is, because that is a shame. And my condolences to the family.
Horrible.
I don't want to mention who it is. I don't want that name out there, but that did happen on Friday night as well, which is adding to the chaos that happened over the weekend. It was rain and floods everywhere. So,
yeah.
Steven, go ahead, and then I want to remind you guys of something that happened.
I also faced depression and tried to commit suicide before on a job in the RMP. This is when, after I lost my election and them, coming down hard on me and retaliating against me and stuff like that, it pushed me to a point that I almost blew my own brains out, I suggest calling a suicide hotline or something outside the job also. Papa takes too long to respond. You call a number and somebody calls you back, and by that time you're already like deep in the hole. It's not a pleasant place to be. I know, like, when people are clear-minded, they're like, how can you ever take your own life? It's, selfish and stuff like that. But when you're in that dark hole, you're thinking, hey, it's better off for everybody if I do this, and it's crazy. But it's a demon that you got to fight off. And I suggest that you go to outside sources, or even go to a church or something, or your temple, or wherever it is that you go, or call a close friend or something. But if you call somebody on the job, you're definitely getting your gun taken away, and
they're gonna ruin your career.
So what you're recommending is that you seek outside help, because if you seek inside help, it's going to end up backfiring. I appreciate how candid you are and how open you are about talking about it, Steve. And I'm hoping that other people listening to and watching the show right now are inspired to go seek help, and they understand that there's light at the end of this dark tunnel that a lot of people are facing, because it's not easy. And there's a lot of comfort in knowing that other people have gone through what you've gone through before. But in terms of the discharge that took place, I want to point out the circumstance that took place a couple years ago with Pat Lynch's son, Kevin, who was involved in an accidental discharge. He was ultimately docked 25 vacation days, as you can see on 50A here. But he was involved in a discharge, and he was only, given a slap on the wrist, comparatively speaking. And, the implications here could have been a lot larger. Someone could have been killed. Someone could have been hurt. There could have been a life-altering injury. And it seemed like the department brushed it under the rug a little bit, presumably because Lynch, at the time, was the union head. These are the type of things that if you don't address, they're going to become larger issues. And the lack of gun safety within the department never ceases to surprise me. Listen, I understand that there's, limited training. You only go to the shooting range once a year, and you have to qualify, and that's about it. It's almost taboo. You don't, unless you're in a very specialized unit, you're not necessarily practicing all of the conditions that can unfold. But there needs to be a larger emphasis and more of a discussion about gun safety and its usage. I'm all for the Second Amendment, by the way. I know most politicians in New York are, and it's not legal to own a gun there. But if you're going to be walking around with a firearm, you really need to understand what it's all about, because too many people just treat it like it's nothing. I mean, it's a large responsibility, not only carrying it on the job, but Steve, I mean, you probably have friends who were involved in situations off the job where they had to either pull their firearm or were close to it. So, there needs to be more open discussion about this sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need to know your firearm. You definitely need to be well versed in firearms, especially you carry it every day. It's your your tool, right? It's a tool on your belt. God forbid you have to use it, and unfortunately you might have to draw it out multiple times, but you should definitely get to know your firearm and how to use it and what causes it. Like Sal said, it doesn't just go off. For you to be cleaning your gun and stuff, why are you playing with the trigger? I understand as a Glock, you gotta depress the trigger to take off the slide, but me, as when I was a police officer and I had my Glock and I had to clean it, I checked, double checked, triple checked, that my chamber was clear before I even depressed the trigger. Like, it's one of the things that should go through your head.
You can't joke about this sort of thing. I see people in the comment section, it's a clown comment, swept it under the rug, whatever. No, you should not have an accidental discharge, period. It's not a toy. It's a gun. It's a device that's used to do your job, not to play around with in your free time because you're one of the only people in your friend group that owns it. I mean, come on. And it's a service issued weapon too. It's not for personal usage and personal ownage. So let's be clear about that as well.
Just think this now, that there are parents that are grieving that one of their sons is no longer there because the other son's actions, but a service pistol. I was also told it's a service gun, not the off-duty. So you know what this means? If I'm the parents, I sue the police departments. There's going to be another lawsuit coming the soccer mom's way because they had the gun. They gave him this gun. They trained this police officer, and then look what happened. And again, with this act, this is not, to me, an accidental discharge like that. We had this incident a couple of months ago with Benjamin Gurley, right? Which, again, they didn't indict him, right? I told you that, but that whole thing blew up real quick. But why did that happen? Because they were wrestling for the gun. So what happened is someone's finger is in that trigger, hit the trigger finger, went in there as they were wrestling for that gun. That's what happened. The gun can't just go off for itself. And the same thing here when you're cleaning. So that's a bad excuse. It's terrible to even say, oh, he was cleaning his gun. No, you are responsible for that thing. And now look, your brother's not alive anymore because of it, as him. And that's got to be a horrible thing he's got to live with now. But again, he's going to get hit with negligent homicide. That is almost a certainty. And this is what I hear from my sources, who again tell me where I've been ever wrong with anything. There's some other stuff too. I just want to pivot for a second and come back to the police department. But also the other day, the former sheriff, he got raided, Steve, and everyone was focused on that because someone I know was the first to report it. They act like he never did. Tommy Faccia, shout out to him, or Timmy. And they didn't know why he was being raided. And again, there's a Treasury Department. And they're looking at him because of ties to CCP. There's some kind of connection with that, as we remember what was going on in the Crumbs crew, and fraud. But people don't realize that they went to the home and also raided his home in Puerto Rico where he was staying. Okay, people don't want to say that. I said that right off the bat. So I knew the details as it happened. We were doing a show on Thursday. So his underling also got raided, Glover. That was the guy he left with. And I understand that there's a big mess left behind, especially with the Department of Finance, who the sheriff falls under. But this is kind of like its own thing. And I don't know how far reaching this goes, because if there's fraud, it's the Treasury Department looking at this. I don't know. Remember, This guy also did a PPE loan scheme where he ended up getting about 29 to 30 grand, then became the sheriff, and his company folded a couple of months later. He never repaid that money. Why was he not charged? Because they charged a cop. They said some cop took a PPE loan for 40 grand, but they charged that cop, not him. And by the way, there's many people that did that, but there's selective enforcement on that. But him, who should have been hit, because he had that other scam with the mask and stuff during the pandemic. And here we are. Finally, it's the second time this guy got raided, but now you know what it was really about. Is there's ties back to foreign countries like the CCP and fraud, right? And he also got raided in Puerto Rico where he was. So I think this is a lot more serious than people think. And then you just have to wonder, does it just end with him, or does this keep going up the chain? Because obviously you and I, Steve, were discussing Frank Carone, and Frank Carone is involved with some people that you happen to know and, had to run into. And then, of course, James McCarthy got raided, and he was part of your case originally. So I don't want to take a full circle here. What a circle.
Miranda lives in the 109 precinct, right? The confines in the 109 precinct.
Yep.
He ran for, I believe it was borough president, and then he tried to run for city council or something like that, right? There were a couple of people from the 109, or they used to be in the 109 precinct, that were also got their phones taken away, right? One guy, a sergeant, I'm not going to mention the name. He's still on the job. He still has people out here. He used to be a sergeant in the 109. Then when Adams became mayor, Winnie Greco pulled him into the mayor's detail. He got his phone taken. He was also part of my investigation, which they helped cover up and squash because of his connections. There was another sergeant that became a lieutenant. I'm not going to mention his name neither. He was in a 109. He had multiple complaints, multiple complaints, and keeps getting away with it. His phone got taken. He's also connected with Winnie Greco. And, I told everybody this when I was doing my undercover work. I bring these people up, and, they covered it up, obviously, because of their connections. And, if they would have just listened and nipped it in the butt back then, they would have saved themselves this mud on their face now, right? It's all blowing up. James McCarthy was the XO of the borough when my investigation was going on, and his name came up multiple times when they were like, "Oh, I know James. I'll introduce you to next dinner and stuff like that, and he can help you, whatever." And his name came up multiple times, and I brought that up. Pizzuti's name came up multiple times, and you saw what happened with her. She got a slap on her wrist, and she was having free dinners with Marjorie, right? and when that happened, when I saw that on the news, I was ecstatic, right? I was like, yes, we got him. And Internal Affairs was like, no, we passed it over. Passed it over to the ethics board. We're not going to pursue them. And that's why they got away with it. Someone's saying, Steve, you're covering it up. Say their names. All right, fine.
Yeah.
James Ma and Lieutenant James Lee,
I see you.
Steve, I'm happy you brought up his political pursuits as well, because people forget that he ran for Queensborough president back in 2020, finished in 4th place. Then he ran to be the city councilman in the 20th district, which is in Flushing, came in 5th place. Thank God he didn't win either of those elections, because I'm scared about what would have happened if he did, given the improprieties that have taken place. Similar to if Tiffany Caban had won the Queens district attorney election. Those possibilities are scary in my mind. But I mean, the $100,000 that was found in the safe in the initial investigation, the complaints that not only did he take money, but there were complaints that he had taken weed too from some of these smoke shops, and the weed had become unaccounted for. No one really knows what happened with that. Some of those complaints were unsubstantiated. Maybe that weed was hidden. I don't really know what took place. But the bottom line is, Eric Adams had to have been aware of what was going on under Sheriff Anthony Miranda behind all these stunt videos and Kaz Daughtry takedowns that they did, where they would like have all the cameras converge in one place to have them cutting one lock and breaking into a smoke shop that was empty. Anyway, he had to have known what was going on with Anthony Miranda, and he did
nothing. Let me mention this. The Sheriff Department is a sub-entity of the Department of Finance.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I'm hearing is that he never answered to the Department of Finance. He wouldn't listen to them. He wouldn't comply with them. He worked directly with the mayor. So Adams had to have known, you know. And also, you mentioned Caban. Caban is still out here taking pictures with grand opening of supermarkets and stuff like that in Flushing area, you know, and stuff like that. You know, he's still getting his money. So with that foreign money, you know, and it's very hard. I guess, well, I should say this. It's very easy for them to fall into the trap because the Asian culture the Chinese culture is kind of like, how am I going to say it? It's part of our culture to respect law enforcement or government and give them gifts, right? So like in Chinese culture and stuff like that, if you're in China and stuff, like, you know, you have to pay the government. If you don't pay the government, you can't, the wheels don't turn, right? You can't get your stuff done, right? There's bribery everywhere in the Chinese government, right? So for them to come from China to come here, it's natural for them. It's, you know, and that trap is you know, it's set, right? Where they think it's normal. Where, okay, I take you to dinner, I buy gifts for your kids during Christmas and stuff like that. And then it becomes, oh, you know, you want to be a partner in my business. You know, it's a partnership, so I'm not paying you off, right? Stuff like that. When I was internal affairs, when I was working with internal affairs undercover, and we would go into these karaoke places, and they had the hostess girls, right? We call them PRs, right? They had the hostess girls come out. And when internal affairs would do their raids and stuff, they told me themselves, my handlers told me themselves, Sergeant Owens was like, I could see how easy it is for, you know, for us to, for cops to get caught up in this, because the girls are attractive and they're very friendly, right? And they tell you, oh, you know, when you're off, come by and, you know, have a drink and stuff. And when you do, everything's on the house, you know, and the girls are honey traps, you know, they suck you in and you're caught up, you know, so.
Don't forget,
it's a very hard place to work. You know, I'm sorry. No, the 109 is very easy for you to get corrupted. For the cops working in the 109 precinct, you have to be very, very careful and be very, very straight arrow and not take any gifts and stuff like that. You know, who cares about the free? Like me personally, I don't care about the free coffee and getting discounts for dinners and stuff. I don't really give a shit about that, right? The real corruption I'm talking about is you're getting money, and then you have to repay the favor.
And you got Ed Caban still cleaning house out there in Flushing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Con sofrito lives. I tell people that all the time. It lives. But you see, with all of that going on, that's like in the backdrop, right? You got this, you got that. There's other things going on in the background. And I'm hearing these things. This invest what you talked about is all federal. So the issue with that's going to be if it involves Eric Adams, and I'm sure he's like in the middle of this. He's got Trump. We already know about that Trump card, but there's something brewing in the background, and that background is called Alvin Bragg. So that's looming in the distance. There's something going on behind the scenes. I can't put all the details and everything together yet, but Eric is not out of the water, which is why he's probably looking to run to Albania where he has a citizenship sooner rather than later, because all of this stuff, some of it being federal, other things being looked at by Bragg's office with certain people. You got to understand these people. I mean, look, the other day, another guy, right? He had a lot to say about me, and I'm probably gonna have to serve him some papers soon. Is Tony Herbert, who thought he was part of the Crumbs crew, And Tony Herbert was the guy that said that karma came for Charlie Kirk when he passed away, and then he got fired. That guy got indicted, as you know, for doing shakedowns to the shelter, not the shelters, kind of involved with that, but he was going to the pastors and shaking them down, and he took about 30 grand. He can't afford his attorney anymore. So the court, which is the Southern District there, Valerie Caproni had to give him a court-appointed attorney. And that means basically he's like, and the court-appointed attorney is from the SDNY. He's a career prosecutor. Like he just, so what does that tell you? The fix is in. That guy, they want whoever it is that they're looking for. And, being in these cases, it's not good when you're in any of these cases. It's not going to, the federal government is not an easy.
No, and I'm happy you mentioned the Alvin Bragg connection, because Alvin Bragg was the person who prosecuted Trump and the people of the state of New York versus Donald J. Trump back in 2024. But it was weird because he found him guilty on 34 counts, felony counts of falsification of business records in regards to the hush payments that were sent to Stormy Daniels. But he never faced jail time or any consequences. As a matter of fact, I'll remind you, after his mugshot was taken, he was pretty much free to go. And then he gave a nice little press conference. To fast forward a couple years, Stormy Daniels is walking around outside a rehab facility, 30 pounds heavier, smoking a cigarette. Michael Avenatti, the attorney who gained fame from that case, ended up getting indicted on charges of trying to extort Nike. So, I mean, the only person who benefited from the publicity in regards to all of that was Donald Trump. And you wonder what was going on behind the scenes, guys, because, I mean, you find him guilty on 34 felony counts, and then you just let him walk away and he wins the presidency a couple months later. I mean, it's just very weird to see the chain of events that took place there. It shows how kind of corrupt the legal system can be. Yeah. Alvin Bragg seems to be one of these people who's indicting people and wants to bring everyone to justice at face value, but behind closed doors, he's like, you know what, pal, I'm going to take it easy on you. Don't worry. I got you at the end of the day, So I really question the system there.
I think Bragg gets, prosecutes what he gets. I think the NYPD, of course, is selective on who they're going to give him, and he's going to take whoever he gets, and he's going to use it. I don't think he's personally going out looking for people to prosecute and stuff like that. If that was the case, he would have prosecuted so many people.
Well, another thing I wanted you to take on with all of that. I mean, obviously, Richie Taylor has not gotten prosecuted when he should have, and this other stuff going on, like you heard, last week when we had Nicole Bernecki on, who's the attorney for Matthew Graziano, a story I actually broke myself about his, missing, 1,000 hours that they're saying he took in time. There's actually now I'll tell you the truth, the NYPD posting, which she had it in her hand, but the actual posting now says for that position that is now vacant, that was his, you can now live outside of New York City, meaning that's what they were saying he could do. Now they put it in writing. So there's definitely what he's saying, there's merit to it. Meaning there's probably a lot more than even she was saying that really happened, that's going on behind the scenes there, because you let this guy, you're letting someone work outside of the city who's not even in the state, yet you whack cops saying that you out of state residents when you're sick, all this other nonsense, you can't live in New Jersey. They were saying he could live in, and now they're saying you can. So it's like, I don't understand what's going on there, but a lot of what she was saying is starting to line up, saying something is not right there with the police department. They did something, they said something, and this is why they did what they did to him. You had Brian Adams, same thing. They just terminate these people. There's other people too. I'm going to unveil some other stuff very shortly. But this whole thing in the last few weeks, Steve, you had 2 cops indicted for attempted rape. Well, one was, he was an animal, someone in his circle. He was in a legal bureau. The other guy did it to his girlfriend, and there's all people saying, oh, innocent before. There's all kinds of text messages and evidence. This is a domestic at the worst part. When it's or attempted rape, you go. And then there's the case of Jeremy Schlubin, who, again, these are all things that I broke. on the Sal Greco show. We broke this. And then Schlubin, not only is he got indicted, the guy that replaced him is in the same sphere as him. He got sued by 3 females, and his behavior is even more outrageous, including going to Hispanic society parties and trying to pick out females, and God knows what he was doing over there. So it's like, what the hell is going on? And of course, Dave Terrell's case, there was a rape that happened allegedly in One Police Plaza that they admitted, but there's silence on that. Don't talk about that at all, which is one of the main reasons why they terminated him, because why even question a workplace rape in a place you work, which I think all the employees have an absolute right to know by the law. So, Steve, what is I mean, this is like a clown car that's gone out of control. And you have some real perverted criminals in this job, in this culture. It's just eating the soccer mom alive. I mean,
well, what do you expect, right? Because you gotta look at who's leading the department and what these officers are mirroring and take an example of, right? The first corruption, the first SA thing I heard of was Chief Ziegler. Remember Chief Ziegler was caught in a car with somebody else, and his wife was working EEO, and it was crazy. But you have Madry doing what he does, and you have other people doing what they do. His crew, they all do what he do, and these are the people, these examples that the cops look up to. Oh, look, they're doing it. The chief is doing it, and then nothing's happening to them. You have lap dances at Christmas parties with other cops and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, you see it, right? You see it everywhere. So the cops, they're getting brainwashed in their head, like, I could do it too and get away with it. And that's what causes, all this stuff. It's the culture. They need to clean it up. They need to clean it up. You need to set an example. You can't let these chiefs get away with all these essays and stuff like that, and all these complaints and harassments and stuff, because it puts it into their head like, I could do it and get away with it because the department covers it up for you. The department will look out for you. Like with my case, what example did I show? If you speak up, you get fucked. You don't speak up. Right.
Well, the system needs to protect itself. I see a lot of people in the comments as well talking about prostitution. Prostitution is a much larger issue. It was discussed at length during the New York City mayoral election debates. I mean, it's like you have whorehouses with people just standing out on the street like you're in a red light district in Thailand instead of in New York City, right? It's gotten way too out of control. Some politicians have proposed regulations where the tax revenue is used for good causes. I don't trust any of them in terms of that. I think they're just trying to protect the sex workers, which is also okay on some level, so they're not subjected to abuse. But at the end of the day, there's no evenness with the enforcement. You see one whorehouse raided, it's back the next week. You see 3 whorehouses in the 3 houses next door, and none of them are ever touched. So there's a lot of fishiness going on. Perhaps there needs to be more regulation for the system.
Because yeah, but during my investigation, I found out Vice is also, corrupt. They're being paid off. The people are being bribed. They're shutting down competitions for other people and stuff like that. So if you're not part of that's the sex worker network that's in Flushing or whatever, or whatever part that you're working in, they have a network, and it's only certain people could open up whorehouses because they're tight with the police, and they're tight with people in Vice and stuff like that, and they only going around shutting down the competition. Even now, like the karaoke's, like they run rapid. No, they're not doing inspections no more. Ever since I left, they don't even go into these karaoke's, and these karaoke's are running rapid. There's drugs everywhere. There's prostitution everywhere. It's honey traps everywhere. Like it's crazy. It's unregulated now.
Yeah. There's one last thing before I let you leave, Steve. You've been on for a while. I mean, I want to thank you for staying this long with us. There was an article from AMNY in regards to the radio, the encrypted radios, right? Because they made everything encrypted and the media can't see it, right? So they're trying to present this bill now through city council so that I don't know why that's a private thing. And I don't know if they're going to pass this. I don't know who's on board with but the radio should. So you're getting this huge delay. They would say, oh, they didn't want you. There it is. The NYPD policy statement on radio access is vague and in violation of the law, says press advocates. And I agree. It's very, they don't want this out. And I understand at that time you had people like the gimpy chief, he was gimping around with his sidekick, Kaz, and they didn't want you to know what was going on. But, that's not how it really works, because the police department, you are, everything has to be out there. Unless it's a criminal case or in a regular case, everything's public. But the flip side of this, Steve, is you just mentioned all these things, right? We now know definitively with Brian Adams, who came on the show and said it was Kaz Daughtry who introduced this WhatsApp communication thing. And Steve, this is rampant. Now, the NYPD essentially doesn't need a radio anymore because they're having WhatsApp communications amongst themselves. WhatsApp and Signal. Steve, this is a disaster, because if I'm a criminal defense attorney, I want even the cops' personal phones. You know why? And I want to subpoena Signal and WhatsApp and Meta, because they're communicating on that, because this seems to be the new thing, right? Now the police culture is saying, don't use your department phones. Don't use the department radio. Use your personal cell phone and use these encrypted apps to communicate about each other, the stupid pictures of Nazi things and all that stuff, and make fun of each other. And, oh, by the way, this is how we do official business. When you say, no, look at her. What a great rear end this woman has. I locked her up. Ha, ha, ha. She was driving. That's what they're doing. Steve, what do you take on that? Because this is out of control.
Huge issue. A big Megillah waiting to happen, right? I personally talked to somebody who does reporting in the Bronx, and he told me all the precincts in the Bronx have a WhatsApp group chat. And if you want, you could buy the group chat for a couple $100. Right? So there's no security there. Okay? It's just because they want to keep off the radio, and they don't want people to hear their nonsense and stuff like that, and the fuckery that they're doing, as opposed to like the personal phones and everything. That's going to be a huge issue for all the public defenders, for all the lawyers out there. You should start subpoenaing and asking for their public phones and the department phones for those WhatsApp conversations. If they don't give it to you, they're withholding evidence. If they tell you they don't have any group chats and stuff, they're lying. All right, because every cop is doing it now. They're all in the group WhatsApp chat and stuff like that. They're exchanging personal, on their personal phones. They're talking about stuff too, job related stuff, and then they officially go over in the group, in the department phone. They officially go over after they discuss what's going to happen and stuff like that. And when you subpoena these phones, right, you're gonna see all the racist stuff that's going on, right? All the BS, favoritism and stuff like that, or the sexist stuff, or the KKK pictures and stuff like that, or the Christmas tree pictures and stuff. Like you're gonna see all this, right? And the thing is, the huge problem is now you got all these criminals. Like, let's say one person does subpoena and then they withhold evidence. Now all these other criminals that are convicted is going to be an issue, because it could be overturned now, because now it's like, oh, they were withholding evidence. What were they talking about in the group chat? Did they target me? Did they set me up? Did they plan it? Maybe they arranged it in the group chat. You don't know what's going on in the group chat. And then when they see all this racist stuff that's going, and all this improper stuff that's going on in the group chats that they're posting amongst themselves, they're thinking, oh, nobody's going to see it. Now it becomes, okay, what's the integrity of this officer? Are they a gang? Look, they changed self as, KK hoodies and stuff like that. Like, they hate black officers. Oh, look at IAB. They have a Christmas tree of all the people that they, that they fucked over, and stuff like that. Like, what is the mentality of these people? What is the integrity of these people? Like, all this stuff could not be, it's all questionable now. Like, and mistrials gonna happen and all this other stuff. There's a reason why the department, when me and you came on, Sal, there's a reason why they told you, don't use your personal phone. Don't take pictures with your personal phone. Don't talk about anything about the job with your personal phone. Don't talk about the arrest with your personal phone and stuff like that, because all that is material. You're gonna have to submit it to the DA's office, and you're gonna have to vouch your phone, right? And that's the whole reason why they gave you department phones.
On Tisch idea, by the way. So
So,
listen, Steve. Steve. This has been a fascinating show with you, as always. This is a topic we got to pick up in the futures. I'm sure some other stuff's going to come up out of it, but I'd like to thank you for coming on. People can follow you on at The System Unfiltered on YouTube and at Steve for NY on X, and I believe on Instagram and TikTok it's at Steve for New York, but you got to spell it FOR. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Steve, and I'll see you on the next one. Please stay safe.
All right. Stay safe.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Steve. And one other thing, I appreciate your brute honesty about the mental health struggles that you went through as well.
Yes.
I know that it's not easy to talk about those sorts of things, but that helps decrease the stigma, and hopefully it inspires other people who are going through similar struggles to ultimately take action.
Yeah, I mean, don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. Like I haven't cried in like years, and that day I was tearing up for no reason. And there's no shame in it, right? It's something that all of us go through it. I don't want to mention names from the other show, but Eric Dim, he's gone through it. It's dark places. The tough of us go through it, and for you to get through it, you need people around you. You need good people around you. And sometimes you just need a hug. Like it sounds stupid, but sometimes you just need a hug, and sometimes you just need somebody to listen. And don't be afraid to reach out. It's the bravest thing that you could ever fucking do is reach out to somebody and talk about it. That's the bravest thing you could do. For you to, just wander in that hole and let the demons take over. I know it's dark, it's hard. You seem like it's the right thing to do at the time, but it's not. You need to reach out to somebody. Please do. Reach out to me. Shit, I'll talk to you.
Excellent.
There you have it, folks.
Right,
yeah, thank you so much, Stephen. We'll have you back on a future episode. Have a good one.
Jack, before we leave, I already mentioned the World Cup. Just give us like a quick 60-second synopsis on your end.
That was like a glorified kickball game. I mean, on one end of the soccer field, you had Argentina, who was playing, we're not going to play offense, but we're going to play defense the entire game. And on the other side of this field, you had Spain, who was playing offense the entire game, but they couldn't put the ball in the net until the very end. I mean, it's weird how probably the worst match of the entire World Cup was saved for the finale. Congrats to Spain. I'm happy they won. Their fans were celebrating all over the street. But that was a brutal watch, especially for us casual soccer fans who don't necessarily watch the sport on a regular basis. It was like Spain, the entire game was on Argentina's end of the field. And Argentina was just, their strategy was like trying to flop all over the place and to win the game in penalty kicks. It was a terrible watch all the way around.
But congratulations to Spain, like I said, with that one. And Argentina, fire your coach, Lautaro Martinez, your real best player. Why wasn't he even in the game? I don't know what they would think.
I mean, have you ever seen a soccer game where a team had 0 shots on goal?
Yes, but not in a World Cup final.
Not in a final. I mean, that was terrible. You have to listen, your whole offensive game plan can't be we're going to play defense the entire game and play keep away. That's just not going to work. Even in a game like soccer where you can tire the opposition out and, catch them sleeping to score a goal, surprisingly. So 0 shots on goal, that's not going to do it. Just a terrible, terrible ending.
There's a bad final, but hey, I mean, the president was there. What'd you expect? Whenever he shows up, something goes wrong for some team or some, I mean, that's the running joke at this point. Guys, if you can, don't forget to follow us, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, Facebook, at The Sal Greco Show. Follow Jack on X and Instagram at J_Stern97. You can follow myself at the Sal Greco on X and Instagram.
This is Mom Donnie. It's funny, Mom Donnie at the game was taking a picture of another person, just real quick before we close, taking a picture of him. Also, I mean, he was constantly complaining about the ticket prices. And I mean, I know he can afford the tickets, but he's like sitting in the upper deck. He probably paid $8 grand.
The guy had a great weekend. He's threatening Bibi Netanyahu's arrest, and he's at the soccer game, all while the city's flooded and the infrastructure's falling apart.
and the soccer game was being played in New Jersey, too.
And the soccer mom might have been at the soccer game. We're trying to find out. Oh, Scott Monroe, was he there? I wonder what the DEA was doing since they're switching over to MetLife insurance. A discussion for another day. we'll be back Thursday, 11:05 a.m. In the morning. We'll see who we could get on as a guest if we have any at all. But until then, hope everyone has a great rest of your day and a good week coming forward, coming up. So we'll see you on Thursday. So until then, we're signing off from South Florida, which, as you know, is a sunny place for shady people.
Thank you for watching the Sal Greco Show. Check us out Mondays and Thursdays at 11:05 p.m. Eastern Time. At 11:05 p.m. Eastern Time. As well as on audio form on all major podcast streaming platforms. All major podcast streaming platforms. Thank you for watching, and may